So today, what I have done is contacted the CIA with another tip about needing help in the neighborhood for the sake of the neighbors who are stuck in a situation where they're guilty of crime and are being told to remain silent about it, which prevents me from getting to the root of the problem that is in the neighborhood. Uh, People are being protected by the government and by the police department, and my reports of crime have gone uninvestigated and have been deleted out of the system. So it appears that my claims of crime are delusional beliefs, even though I have evidence of the crimes occurring in the form of audio 911 recordings and printed documents that are part of the probate court narratives that Netgear provided. I was outside just a little bit ago. It's now 9:30, and I was having a cigarette and left, I guess, my keys on the wrought iron table where I was sitting. They're now missing, so this type of taking of things is common and has been going on for a long time. It's somebody's sick idea of a good time to tease and harass and stalk. They just don't stalk in person. They go ahead and they use an illegal surveillance program that is part of the government. So they're able to stalk what I do every moment of every day. And my privacy is completely absent in my life. And I stand up to that and share my experience with it because it's ridiculous that any American should live this way. And that we actually pay these individuals who are the scum of the earth to do the harassing. They get a salary and a badge, and they obviously took an oath and ignored it. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a way to secure my home if I were to be removed from it, which is, I'm sure, the next step, because the police are involved in what's going on in the neighborhood and are blocking my ability to get my rights back. And neighbors are following the instructions of the police to remain silent and not offer important information. The neighbors want me to move over doing drugs in the privacy of my own home. Do you believe that? Not bothering anybody. But to them, it is the biggest deal. Either that or the fact that I'm gay, because there are some gay bashers that live in my neighborhood that are very secretive about it. I've been a slave for 7 years. And it started with hearing voices at the very minutest level possible. And it sounded like a radio turned on at the lowest level, and people were talking. I thought there were speakers in my home, and somebody was just playing a trick on me. Then I realized that it was not speakers, and that it was actually happening inside my own head. I cried and slept for 3 days, unsure what to do. I knew it wasn't drugs, because it happened whether I was high or not. Over the years, the intensity and volume of the voices and the number of voices increased. And I became the target of a group of people that hated me for no good reason other than the fact that I'm either gay or used drugs. There were rumors that were spread around my neighborhood that I was a drug dealer or that I'm a child molester, or the list goes on and on. Serial murderer. I have one DUI, and I've not done any other crime. I don't know who this group is, or who the members are of it, but I guarantee them one thing. Once I get through with them, they probably won't exist. So the world will be a safer place, filled with less hate. My life has been completely ruined as a result of this group. Through remote neural monitoring, they have caused, with the help of neighbors, because they pretended they were the government, and convinced neighbors that I was mentally ill. And what they saw was me being tortured with microwaves inside my head, teasing, taunting, harassing, scaring, and causing psychological torture to occur on a daily basis. It would start while I was still asleep in the morning, and I would wake up to the same voices talking, calling me by my nickname, which, if it were my voice, my own inner voice, I would not speak to myself in the third person. Somebody else who is suffering from V2K, or the microwave auditory effect, said that her captors used vocabulary that she did not know, and she had to look up the word that was said inside her head. That's not an inner voice. That's not a mental illness. Another person said that she just switched the language that she was speaking in, and that shut up her captors. So there's all sorts of nefarious groups that are using this program and have access to it that continue to grow. It produces slavery in a victim. And all victims who attempt to get help in getting the torture to stop are told by the field of psychiatry that they're mentally ill, and they end up with a diagnosis. The world population of schizophrenics is 1% of the entire world. 1%. If you look on the internet, about 1.5% are the numbers in the United States. I think those numbers are fudged, and they're not correct. I think that our percent is more like 3, 4, maybe 5% of the total population. You see, there's a misconception about the illness of schizophrenia. People believe it's common. It's a common illness, mental illness. It most certainly is not. and it's a death sentence if you are diagnosed with it, because it requires ongoing medication for the rest of your life. That's pretty serious. And try getting a diagnosis overturned that is given to you by a hospital when you're brought in for an evaluation, and it's like, it's not possible. Even if I were to go get my own psychiatrist, which would take months to do, I would still have the same problem, even with the new diagnosis that I don't have a mental illness, because they will look at hospital records, the police, which are the cause of my mental illness. It was caused by the Columbus Police Department with all their evaluations. And I said to the police, I said, I'm being harassed by my neighbors, and they are telling lies on the narratives. They did not care. They took me in anyway. When you go in for an evaluation, you don't leave until you have a diagnosis. I bet you the percent of people who are admitted into the hospital when they are taken in on an evaluation is something like 98, 99%. It would be like turning away business if you were a store owner and telling people just to get out of your store and not buy anything. The field of psychiatry, the science behind the brain, and diagnoses is all guesswork. They do not have any medical tests that prove any psychiatric illness. There's not one. And all diagnoses are extremes of emotion or feelings. That's all they are. So if you are scared of something that in my case is very real, you are given a diagnosis of paranoia, or at the more extreme end, schizophrenia. If you are nervous to a psychiatrist, you have anxiety. And all they do is medicate. They are drug dealers with a script pad, and they sign their signature on it, their autograph. It's crazy. And 23 times I have been hospitalized in 5 years. I continue to write of my experience on Facebook because it is an incredible story that is unfolding in the Midgard-Woodbine neighborhood. And there are secrets galore throughout it. And there are people that are doing very illegal things. And they have support from a police department and a government because some of the employees are actually involved. It's fucked up. And I am the target to move out of the neighborhood, which is illegal to do. And the federal government, who has received 76 FBI reports, 7 Department of Justice reports, 7 Department of Homeland Security reports. I'd say probably about close to 24 CIA tips. They don't respond at all. The reason I need the federal government to respond is because the police refuse to accept knowledge of crimes that have occurred. And they don't investigate anything. And then to further complicate matters, they delete evidence that I've reported the crimes, which are federal crimes, so that it looks like I made it up, like it's delusional. The police must think I'm fucking stupid. Or just a toss away, because I have had a history of drug use. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. And then to use the diagnosis that was only created with the police department because I do not have a history of a mental illness until the police were called all the time from neighbors who found it a convenient way to collect evidence in order to do something larger. So they created evidence of a mental illness and are attempting to get me removed from the neighborhood by claiming I'm not competent and that I can't live in my own home and take care of myself. And I've got neighbors stalking me, figuring out, did he take a shower today? Is he in new clothes? Oh my God. My neighbors are sick. To think that this is a good idea. And they're using a technology in it that creates images of things, projections, that you can see through a smart camera lens. You can notice a little bit of a change actually with your own eyes, but to really catch the true picture of things, you need to take it through a smart camera lens. Number one, if you take a video, you can go slowly, frame by frame, and see what is going on. Because if you play it at normal speed, you do not notice the detail of what is actually occurring. This technology changes the environment that you see, and it can create any shape, any object, and it blends in with its background. So I have witnessed it among the trees and creating a screen of pretend sky. And one day, when the population gets big enough, I'm sure that they will do something to coat the sky, to hide the heavens where God is, and prevent us from seeing the truth. It's in our environment, and that can be witnessed by looking through a smart camera lens and seeing the technology travel through the air. It looks like pixelation is off on your smartphone view. And there's nothing wrong with the phone itself or camera. It's actually what's going on in the environment. My fear is that this technology, when there's a lot of it, will be coating everything so much that the colors of things will be a combination of all colors, which is black. And it will create complete darkness for us to see. On the other extreme, in winter, what I'm concerned about is it trying to hide itself or camouflage into the environment by creating what is there, which would be snowfall. And on a bright sunny day, it is already blindingly bright. But with the additional technology, it could create blindness in the population that has snow-covered climates. There's a group who is, if you want to say, in control of this technology, even though they're clearly not in control of it, because there's too much going on in the videos that I've recorded. There's too many independent parts and different animated looking characters doing different things. No one person could possibly be instructing all those individual things. So that's how I know that it is not actually controlled by a human. Either this technology has a mind of its own, or it is being controlled by something that is greater than us. And it works in trickery and hides. If it were from God, it would be honest, and it would not hide itself, and it would not deceive. These are all indications that it is a technology that, first of all, being otherworldly, because it can actually redirect light that is from sources and change the brightness of light projected onto a surface. It uses somehow darkness and light, or shadow and light, to change a 2D object into a 3D looking image. I've recorded this and reported it to my friends and followers on Facebook, and given examples of it where there's a leaf that has very specific designs. And when you first look at it, you see what you think is an object, but it's really only the light being cast and created in a certain way to make a 3D image. This technology, I believe, is also capable of expansion and contraction, making itself small or making itself very large. I have had trouble with my electronic devices, and that could be government or police. But I have an iPhone, and it's hacked into all the time. So I'm the victim of cyber crimes daily, and that is a truth that exists in my life because somebody thinks it's fun to do. These people are the bullies on the playground who never grew up. They just got a job in the executive branch. And the program, and this technology specifically, leaves no trace. The technology of R&M is, it's all government, so nobody's going to be able to discover from the outside who is doing it. The Rydberg sensor, which was supposed to come out in September of last year from the military, still is not out. And that would capture all of the electromagnetic spectrum. And it's an analyzer, and it would be able to geolocate where specific waves are coming from. The truth about microwaves being used means that cancer is being pumped into the heads and bodies of innocent Americans. This is gross. It's gross what's going on. And some people are really excited about it. If you're excited about causing harm to somebody else, that is a mental illness. But there is a belief by these groups that certain people should be excluded from having their rights and liberties, and that they're not equals. I don't know what country they think they grew up in or live in, because pretty much on paper, everybody is equal at this point. Started with African Americans in the mid 1800s. In the early 1900s, it was women who gained the right to vote. These are all things that people have fought and won equality for. So on paper, everybody's equal. The unfortunate part, as we inch closer towards first contact, which I think with pretty much 100% correctness, first contact already happened. It happened with the military. There are accounts, and one in particular was in a foreign country, and it was a report from the government of that country that explained in a narrative that the Americans came into their country and took over the crash site of an alien craft, and they killed one and they took hostage a second. So to have people pretend that we do not have contact with outer culture guests is just plain plumb wrong. So the military is hiding knowledge of not only first contact, but so much more. And the belief that a alien craft can travel faster than the speed of light and be perfectly fine traveling all over, somehow malfunctions and catches fire and falls to the surface of Earth. Come on. What it is an aggressive attack by our military against people who have come very far to communicate with us. The military is not interested in communicating. They're interested in defending, or, you know. Um, I don't think that's a very good approach to a civilization that has much more technology and advancement in science than we do. It would be like a kindergartner wanting to fight an 8th grader. I'm just really frustrated by my neighborhood, by the belief that I should exist without any rights or without any boundaries being observed by other people. The belief that my home is a playground for my neighbors to do whatever the fuck they want because they know somehow how to get in. There's some assholes that live around me, and they are in positions of authority, which is scarier than fuck. They obviously have sway in the police because I'm not getting services. And I get ignored all the time. So there is obviously a belief of what I'm all about that's believed by the police and is not true. My neighbors act very strangely, and they have been stalking for years, and they've been watching for either using behavior or mentally ill behavior. Because the police are setting me up to be removed from my home. How fucking gross. In January of 2020, when I explained I was being harassed by neighbors, I was told, "Robert, you are the problem in the neighborhood." Come again? I'm the victim of torture. My property gets trespassed all the time. I have home invasions. And I'm the problem? The police are completely worthless. And their integrity sucks. There's a reason why they have a 2 out of 5 on their Facebook page. They're all the time being investigated by the federal government for civil rights violations and all sorts of other things. There's a unit that has been used to stalk and harass me called MCR, um, multiple crisis response. MCR. They take anonymous calls in order to launch probate court hearings for people. One of these officers accused me of driving without a license. And I said, I've got a license. He said, no, you don't. You have a suspended license. My license is valid. But he knows everything. Where the fuck is he getting his information from? He wouldn't answer me. In a court or in a NetCare document, it is written from the police that I was at FBI headquarters. I don't even know where FBI headquarters are. So the police create whatever they want, or they accept as fact things told to them. This is the way that the police project lives for other people. I'm being fucked with by the police for nothing I've done wrong. During the last wellness check, the officer said, well, there are many concerns, but we're just out here today doing a wellness check. Many concerns about what? So I have been in contact with a number of officers, 2 community liaison officers, internal affairs. I started CCing and emailing to the chief of police because things are so fucking serious. She should know what is going on. An officer who Patty Ryan said knows details. She says it's in a 911 transcript. So Patty has obviously shared information with this officer about me and given background information. He's a senior officer, a veteran, as he called himself, when he told me I was the problem in the neighborhood, if I'm thinking it's the same person. Who's also about Patty's age, so they probably think alike, too. Patty doesn't like me. I don't know why exactly, she won't tell me. So, yeah, things really suck. I've not dared to try and attempt getting a job because the last career change that I made, which is the only career change I've made in my entire adult life after leaving teaching for 22 years with with no discipline actions ever taken, all 22 years, spotless record. I went into real estate and was going to be a realtor for a number of years and then was hoping to get into training, which is a salaried position with Coldwell Banker. It's the only brokerage and real estate retailer that has a trainer salaried position. And I thought, with my education background, it would be fun and exciting to teach new employees and sales representatives the business. After I learned it, of course, because I love passing on knowledge to people, hoping they retain it. Many probably don't, but that's besides the point. I was taken in many times for hospitalizations in the summer of 2019. 2019. In April, right around my birthday, I signed up for being affiliated with Coldwell Banker. And then the summer hit where repeated hospitalizations occurred over and over and over and over again. Fall came, and September 13th, I went in and I talked to Kate, who has been with the company for a while, and I know from the Allen Creek Sailing Association, which is where I kept my sailboat, where I would race and pleasure sail about a half hour away from where I live in Columbus, Ohio. And she was excited, welcomed me back with open arms, and she set up a meeting with the branch manager and her for 4 days later. I said, great. We set a time and everything. And when I went in, the secretary or office assistant led me to a room where I sat down. And the trainer came in with a grimace on his face, sat down and said that Tracy was not available. This is the branch manager. And that Kate was not in the office. And that Coldwell Banker did not want to affiliate with me anymore. And that was that. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Because I have never not gotten all the positions that I've ever applied for in my life since I started working at 16. Somebody with access to R&M that knew I was going to be going in for that meeting sabotaged it and contacted the branch manager and said something that was obviously not very good. At that point, I had not written any of my experience online. I was still suffering from the V2K, and there were obviously things that were going on outside of my head that were things like poop being tossed over the fence. I think some of it was human, actually, but all of the things that I've collected for forensic evidence were thrown away by my fraternity brother when he was cleaning my home, when the whole fraternity rushed in and tried to save me. And I tried to explain what was going on in my life, and that neighbors were harassing me and stalking me, and it was really a problem. It was like a gang that was against me. They didn't believe me. They did not believe that I was being tortured. And when they spoke to neighbors, they came away with the impression that I was scaring the neighbors, um, and that I was stalking them. I've been taking pictures of the technology that's obviously in the neighborhood that I think they can see too and are keeping secret from me. The knowledge that they know the technology is here. And because it's made of invisible light, they have been told by the group in control of it to tell the authorities, I see things that aren't there. Which sounds like mental illness. Oh, I have delusions. No, from day one, I have said through a smart camera lens. Looks like blah. And the real environment, when you see with your naked eye, doesn't pick up what is seen on a camera screen. All my friends think I'm using drugs or that I have a mental illness, and that is creating my delusions. So they don't offer any help at all. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia because of all the hospitalizations and the fact that there are no reports of crime that anybody can go and look at. So the doctors all think that I'm making it all up. Neighbors I've caught guilty of crime who have answers to things that I need to know remain silent, offer no help, and were probably told by the police to ignore the man with the mental illness that they gave me. My poor mom. She's under the belief that the doctors and the police are right. And she thinks that I have destroyed my brain permanently. And that there is no hope for me of getting unstuck in life. So my relationship with my mom has been strained, even though I talk to her every day. Because she's 75 or 76. And my brother has a family of his own. And she lives alone. She has a couple friends. But she's just there with her two dogs. And she does not believe my experience. She thinks that it is something I created in my head. That I made up all of this and it was an excuse for drugs being the problem. There's a rumor going around the neighborhood that I smoke pot. Five years of lab results will prove that I don't smoke marijuana. But my neighbors are convinced of it. I smoke cigarettes outside and in the backyard. One neighbor claims on a 911 recording that I do or did opioids that were non-prescription. I've never done an opioid in my life. One time, I tested positive in a hospital, which could have honestly just been a setup. They could write down the result for anything, really. And I tested positive for fentanyl, which is deadly, and Suboxone, which is a drug taken to curb the use of heroin or opioids, which I never had a prescription for. So it was clearly a setup for people to believe that I had an opioid problem. And that's not the case. I took a stimulant, which helped me focus because I have adult diagnosed ADD, attention deficit disorder. And when I divulged to my doctor that I had been abusing it because it was really helpful, and I was able to create music in a way that I was never able to before, and I play piano rather well. But things clicked in a way that were um, an improvement. And I was able to focus my attention for long periods of time without being distracted. And I abused it, and I admitted it to my doctor. And I went through IOP and PHP for recovery. I found the rooms of NA, and I began going to meetings, and they were about a new way of life. And the program is great because it really does focus you on the important things that make life worth living and happy. And they're good principles to live by. But my experience with remote neural monitoring with V2K and the crazy amount of harassment that's been going on, every time that I would express my issues or problems, solutions were offered. And people are wonderful in the rooms. They're absolutely wonderful. Everybody is helpful, and everybody is nice. All the solutions they would suggest would not work in my case because it would not stop the voices in my head. It just wouldn't. So when I went to share my experience, people couldn't relate to it. And people just didn't have suggestions that I could apply in my life. So I still read the Just for Today, and I apply all of the principles of recovery in my daily life. But I don't even have a addiction problem. I did when I abused it, but the belief that once you're an addict, you're always an addict does not apply for somebody like me. It would be like taking a person who has a beer with a pizza, and because they drink a beer, they're an alcoholic. Um, Not really. Regardless of that, when I did use, I would never have a quantity in my possession that would be worthy of any sort of severe punishment or consequence. But there's a belief in my neighborhood that I'm some big time drug dealer because an imposter came into the neighborhood, spreading lies. So I'm labeled by people in my neighborhood who don't even know me. They don't know anything about me, just what they've been told. So I'm the drug dealer or the druggie or the addict in the neighborhood. And I'm ostracized, I'm ignored. There is a concerted effort to get me removed from my home because of it. Once I got a mental illness diagnosis, the neighbor who found that out was happy to go around and spread to all the other neighbors news of my mental illness. And I think the police instructed this neighbor to watch, stall for my behavior, and if it was odd, that they should contact the police or Netcare. So now my whole neighborhood eyes me like a hawk. And I'm trying to get important information out about what has gone on in the neighborhood and what is going on. And neighbors who hear me talk out loud, which is talking to them. All they hear is noise. Oh, he's talking again. It's his mental illness. And because I take pictures of things that are in other people's yards, some believe I'm a stalker, and others believe I'm mentally ill because I am taking pictures of things that aren't there, they say. Or they see with their own eyes that nothing's there. When I'm recording on film and camera, things that are obviously there. When I post those pictures and video on Facebook or on YouTube, everybody tells me I'm mentally ill and that um, there's nothing there. And they are making this determination by only seeing half of the data that I am, because I'm comparing what is captured on a camera screen, on a phone screen, to what I see with my eye. That's not a mental illness. That's called an observation. Neighbors believe that I'm exhibiting symptoms of a mental illness when I speak aloud and in the privacy of my own home. So they're listening in to what I'm doing inside the privacy of my own home, and then calling and reporting and talking to myself. When you're talking to yourself, it's saying something and then responding back. Having a conversation with yourself is talking to yourself. What I do, because I don't have any friends right now, because they've all abandoned me, I do is have a narrative, a monologue, if you will, kind of like what I'm doing now on a video. That is not a mental illness. It's a logical train of thought, and it's a linear conversation. I'm not interrupting myself with a different voice as if I was hearing things in my head. I'm not doing that. Do I respond sometimes to the assholes that are in my head talking? Yeah. My captor group believes that because they're doing that, that is why I should be in a mental hospital living. Isn't that sick? Because of what they're actually doing. They put me on stage for the neighbor audience that they prepped to watch for me talking to myself, responding to somebody who's not there. Yeah, this is a sick group of people. And I got a bunch of their license plate numbers. A ton. Because Patty got approval from the police and believes that she's doing everything legally. Because the police said, and because of the imposter that came into the neighborhood pretending to be the government. He told her things that I'm still trying to get her to open up her fucking mouth about and tell me what was said. But she won't open up her mouth. In the 911 recording, she believes that they were real. I don't believe that she believes they are real now. I think she knows that they're not. But they promised her that if she does what they say to do, that it will get me removed from my home. and I will be moved out of the neighborhood. So she would like me to move. I don't know whether it's because I'm gay or it's the drug thing. I'm not sure what her deal is. But she's actively working to have me lose my ownership of my worldly possession. She's fucking with my life. And my neighbors all tell me to stop or my friends all tell me to stop harassing the nice lady and that I should be in jail for stalking her. She's withholding evidence that I desperately need to get my diagnosis reversed and demand that OSU change it. Because when I continually ask for the police's help, which they never give, they check to see if I'm compliant. They see that I'm not. Then I get the sheriff's department appearing at my door. And they deliver me to the hospital. The drugs that schizophrenics take, which I do not have because I don't exhibit any symptoms. I talk to my neighbors, but they ignore me. But I'm talking to them. I say hi to people on the street. I'm outside all the time. I interact with people. A schizophrenic would not do that. Somehow, I don't know where this came from, the fact that I am angry at my neighbors because I am. I'm livid at what they have done to my life and the intrusion that they feel is appropriate in my life. How fucking rude! Mind your own fucking business. And if you are honestly trying to help, why haven't you knocked on my door and said, hey, Rem, what's going on? Are you okay? None of that. There was none of that. I had a complete stranger, call and ask the police to do a wellness check on me. It lives an hour away. There's a group of both neighbors and other people whom I've never met who stalk me. When I first started the 10th edition, 10th volume of my journal, I was up in Delaware, Ohio, which is about a half hour away. And a neighbor with her dog and a tattoo across her back stood about 300 or 400 feet away with her cell phone texting and standing around the same area as I wrote in my journal and then read aloud what I wrote. She stayed there the entire time that I wrote, hovering in the same area. And when I got up to leave, she left, was in front of me, and I caught up to her, not knowing who she was. I caught up to her at the stoplight at the crosswalk. And I realized that's the person who was texting. I did not say anything, but as soon as that light turned green, she dashed off forward, trying to get away from me. What is somebody doing following me 25 miles away from home? That lives in the neighborhood, whom I've never met. People in my neighborhood act as if it is their job and duty to know, observe, report what the fuck I do to other people. I don't get it. I don't understand. But I'll tell you one thing. They have an agenda. And a desire. And that agenda and desire is to force me to move and sell my home or lose it. That's their agenda. And they don't know anything about me. But they all believe things about my past and present. The police offer no help, but they're very anxious to help the neighbors get what they want. And I'm treated like a fucking criminal piece of shit. And I've done nothing wrong. What is up with my neighborhood? Because let's face it, to be this concerned about what somebody else does in the privacy of their own home, not bothering a soul, is mentally ill behavior. There is this evil, wicked force that has them all transfixed on getting what they want, which is illegal to do. And one neighbor, she has taken it on as her mission. When she, in the past, has done the exact same thing as I have done. Exact. And she has the balls to say I should not be allowed to live within the Midgard Woodbine neighborhood. What on earth are you talking about? She's eyed me like a hawk. I was outside one day, having a cigarette, seated in a chair. And I hear aloud, should we call the police? I'm not even doing anything. What would you say to the police? And why are you calling the police? I had another neighbor from the alley whom I've never met, who said aloud one day, we don't like him. I responded, and I said, how can you not like somebody you've never met? It shut her up. Because it's true. She doesn't know me at all. Just stories, she was told. And obviously, stories are enough to get my gossipy neighbors all riled up. To do something. So I've become a target in my neighborhood. And I'm the victim of organized stalking because it involves Netcare and the police as an arm of the desire of the neighborhood. And there's one person who is donned herself as the representative of the neighborhood. She's the voice of everybody. So, since she can call the police anonymously, hello, I'm having a problem. They don't reveal her name in any documents, so it's safe for her to do that. Because she's talked to Netcare, when Netcare gets the call from the police, they go out to verify with a neighbor what's going on. So she reports it, and then Netcare contacts her, and she verifies what she reported. She thinks she's helping me. She's trying to help me move. And I don't buy that she's trying to help me. The police do. The police think she's a nice old lady. And in a 911 transcript, it was revealed, in cruiser cam and body cam, was revealed that she doesn't know why I'm angry at her. That's what the police think. Because she tells the police that
My anger is a mental illness. My anger is a symptom of a mental illness.
I'm steaming livid. That 23 hospitalizations were performed again and again and again in an effort to get me to move. Well, if I just do these enough of the time, he'll get sick of it. We'll get him to move that way. And we'll just keep doing it. You don't give somebody a mental illness for the purposes of harassing them and removing them from their home to get them to move. That is illegal on so many different levels. And gross. In the neighbor's defense, when I was being severely tortured with psychological abuse in my head, and very scared about the stories of my future and what my future was going to hold, which were setups for either me going to jail forever or living in an institution. Psychological abuse. Or breaking into my house and kidnapping or killing me. These were things that I grappled with every day. And neighbors saw me respond. The people they thought were the government primed them to believe I'm mentally ill. So because I speak about my experience with remote neuromonitoring, which is the devil, a lot of people look at it as the savior to catch people doing things or to steal information from, like inventions, or insider trading, or dirt on somebody's extramarital affair that they can then use and bribe against. There's all this wonderful criminal element associated with using it because it allows you to see and hear what you shouldn't be allowed to see or hear. There are even laws against being able to see and hear things you shouldn't be able to see and hear. But the laws are ignored. And the people that enforce laws usually catch people breaking the law with illegal and illegally gathered information. This is a big problem because we're not following the laws that are already in place. And when the government does not follow the laws that are already in place, and it infringes on the rights of the people, we really don't have any rights at all. Because if you can gather information from me without me even speaking, or if you can see where I am, or my social security number, or my credit card number, or my bank PIN when I go to the ATM, or the combination to a lock, because in order to open it, you would need to know the digits, which you would say to yourself in your head, or at least think about, because if you didn't think about the correct combination, you wouldn't be able to get in. So confidential information is being constantly stolen. Constantly. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that more people are not talking about this crime, this program that's run by Dick Cheney and other people in different departments and agencies. It's a real program. And it involves non-consensual, innocent, because you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, which is a different branch. So we have the executive branch overstepping its role, not giving an opportunity for an accused person or a believed criminal the right to face the person who's accusing them. There is no defense from a representative of law to defend against any allegations. Invasion of privacy is used, and the microwaves that make it happen cause cancer. That's a lot of harm that's being created. And this is all to learn information. Some groups use it to commit hate crimes. It allows slavery to come back. If you are a minority, this program is reason to be scared shitless. What's next? Are groups going to go after African Americans, Jews, women, the elderly, homosexuals? The list goes on and on and on, because hate is prevalent in today's culture. But it's hidden. People know better than to display their hate overtly, so they do it covertly, and this is the weapon of choice. To annihilate somebody, to completely destroy their lives. And in my case, it was over a set of lies. So, because I respect myself and I stand up for myself, I talk about my experience because nobody should have to experience the things that I have. It's not appropriate in a civilized world. It's barbaric. And it's kept hidden. And there are about 2 million of us worldwide. 2 million. People being physically tortured. I've lost 60% of the lower jawbone in my mouth. And I went from having stage 1 or gingivitis. It was the next step. I don't think it was stage 1. I now have stage 3 to 4. Gum disease. Because my gums melted. When you do meth, there are things that happen to your teeth. And for people that don't have good hygiene, there is gum loss. But mine all happened within 6 years that I can prove with a gum recession test in 2014 and 2020. There's a marked difference between the two tests. And if it is all attributed to drugs, I would have had to have taken such a large mouth and never, ever brushed my teeth. And that's not the case. I could feel physically tingling from inside my jaw. The area where my tongue sits on my lower jawbone, I used to have a ridge of bone that extended from my teeth and into the interior of my mouth that is now all gone. It has disappeared. And I have a straight ridge from the tooth straight down. And the gums could actually feel them separating from the jawbone and literally moving away from the jawbone to the tip and reconnecting and creating an elastic band around my teeth. This happened for over 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. It's not happening today, or it's not happening as severely today. It is on a little bit, and the goal, I've been told, is for me to be a toothless addict. I don't know who this bozo is. I think he works for the DEA here in Columbus in a very high position, where he is thought of as a successful man who has incredible character and integrity. Just a suspicion, because I do not know I think my neighbor knows. I think the police know. I think the police are aware. And probably have been gotten, or probably been given information from inside the privacy of my own home. And there's a belief, I guess, with the police that this is somehow all legit and what the government does. How can you not stand up for my rights? You're told invasion of privacy is happening with details about it. And you don't think that's a crime? Oh, it's the government. And the police probably justify it because they go into people's devices and stuff like that all the time. They collect information. They access people's computers online. People do all sorts of nefarious, illegal activity to find information. Oh my God. They're probably figuring, well, how would we catch people doing things if we didn't illegally go in and find them out? Well, see, that's just it. Is the goal of the executive branch to incarcerate and punish everybody for everything they do? Maybe it is. Do you know the statistics of people that have gotten one DUI? It's staggering. You would think that the house was, or the road was full of drunkards everywhere. So the test, the road test, the sobriety test, there are so many ways to fail that test. It's a setup. If somebody wants to get you for driving impaired or driving while intoxicated, or a police officer is going to do it. They'll pull you over, and if they want to give you a ticket or take you to jail, they will take you to jail. That's scarier than fuck. If you refuse to take the test, you go to jail and you have an automatic suspension for 6 months. Just because an officer suspects something. I don't know. But I'm in a situation where the police believe things that were told to them by a neighbor that reportedly came from the government. Yet, that source is an imposter. The police are in a belief that I am a rotten egg and that I've done something. Or there's something in my past that is horribly wrong. And it's not the case. But the police offer me nothing. They're not interested in resolving the disagreement. I thought that's what police did. They do it for domestic violence all the time. So how is this different? I was told that it's a civil matter and that I would need to take it to court. To handle. My neighbor's going around to other people, telling them lies, and saying that the information came from the government. That's a crime that is being committed. And if it's something juicy, I'm sure she's on the phone all the time. Sharing news about the deviant one that should be in jail, or she didn't check his ID. She never verified it. And my entire life has been ruined because of it. In order to get the diagnosis switched back to something that is not a mental illness, there are two ways. Bill and Patty. In 2017, an ex-tenant who I had to evict to get out the last week he was here and knew that he was getting kicked out, invited a neighbor over who I do not get along with, and his son, or young man. They were in my home for about 10 minutes. I was outside tending to my yard. Then they left. I've asked him to please tell me, what did Ryan DeLaha say to him? He's returned mail, returned to sender, that I have mailed to him. I don't know his phone number. And when I see him and I ask him about it, I get ignored. When I found out that Patty was lied to about my arrest record and my medical records, I tried all last summer to give her information about the truth and ways that she could find out whether the information she received was true or not. Never got a response. Emails, texts, messenger messages, letters in the mail, pleading for help. I need answers. Nothing. And she's aligned herself with all these scores of people to help her get what she wants. So, because of the technology in the neighborhood, there's somehow a belief that this technology is the answer to every problem that we've ever encountered in life. And a person who is claiming ownership over this technology has aligned themselves with police and possibly government, and maybe other organizations too. Who knows how much is being produced? I'll tell you one thing about the supply and demand curve that I learned in economics, intro to economics. If you create a surplus of a product, the value of that product becomes less and less the more you produce. So a finite resource, like oil, for instance, we're running out of our supply. As we continue to run out of our supply and it becomes less and less, the price is going to go up. So what this group has done is it has taken something that has a lot of possibilities and they have farmed it, it appears, and there's so much of it I have been able to spot it in profile pictures of people online or Facebook pictures of the technology there. It's all over my neighborhood. And I think, but I don't know because nobody tells me anything. I think that the technology did not exist here until it appeared in the neighborhood. Either that or it's military and was brought into the neighborhood illegally and used. It kind of explains why my backyard gate would be not correctly closed because I closed my gate a certain way. So there was access to my backyard almost nightly during a period within the last half decade. I don't know what they did, but I don't know. Strange things have happened. I'll just put it that way. And they continue to happen around the neighborhood and around my home. And the technology has been stalking me, which are images that are cast that you can't see with your regular eyes, what you see through a smart camera lens on a display screen, which could be a program inside of my device and only shows up here. And it's a big old joke. The only problem is there are things in the real environment that have happened that aren't on my phone, at which point it could be something in or on my eye, and I do not know that. Or it's really heavy. I've asked friends, please come over and snap some pictures of what is going on in the environment around my property. Because if you're at another location looking at the area, a 3D image is going to look different from this angle or this angle. Well, I saw it pointing left, but somebody 90 degrees away is going to say, nope, it was not. It was facing me, and it was skinny. So the joke is to use the technology against a specific target to create three-dimensional images for that person to observe. And because it is configured to specifically locate a person where they are, it knows where to create the light and shadow images that become 3D that are painted on two-dimensional surfaces, like a wall or leaves. I believe that my neighbors were told that it was light therapy for using drugs or a mental illness. And they're complicit in allowing a device that targets me to be placed in their homes or on their property aimed at mine. And what it does is it creates a three-dimensional movie set for me to live in that is the spitting image of a using addict. Seeing things that aren't there, right? Ha 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 ha. Well, we'll make them see things that aren't there. Yeah. Using V2K with R&M. Talking to me inside my head while he hears things that aren't there. Self-obsession and compulsion to use are the two symptoms of addiction. If I've got faces that only are seen through a smart camera lens on a screen, constantly looking inside my windows, is that going to make me think about myself? You bet it will. But that's the point. The point is to create an environment and a belief that never allows somebody the freedom of recovery. Because they're creating it. Because of the use of R&M, that means that my ability to free myself is nearly impossible. Because if I think of a way to report crime or to get help from somewhere, that entity will be contacted and probably the person will abuse their power and say, you're with the government and there's good reason not to follow up on this story, or it's a matter of national security. Everything's a matter of national security, right? Well, I'm glad that the government said that in its court rulings, because it's very, very important. You might think that the targeted individual community suffered a big loss when lawsuits were filed and then thrown out of court because of a matter of national security. Not so. It's not a bad thing. Do you know why? It proves that the program exists, which is where I've met up with a lot of opposition. A lot of people say, it's science fiction. There's no way that that could happen. And people really aren't doing that. And they're not targeting you from space. Well, yeah, they are. There are satellites up there. They use radar that are military owned that track everybody. Period. That's fact. That's where we live today, as sick as it is, and being filled with cancer waves in our brain by our government. To keep everybody safe? I don't know. It becomes a little bit different when you add microwave radiation to it. But in order to do that, you have to affect somebody's DNA resonance signature. And if you match it exactly or know the frequency of it, it allows you to then send microwaves and penetrate through that natural defense, which is stolen, that code. Like stealing somebody's social security number or credit card. But it's outside the body. It's not invasion of privacy. If it comes from within your body and is an extension of yourself, it is somebody's privacy because it's unique to them. It's like a fingerprint. So, my question is this. If my resonance signature has been compromised, does that mean that all microwaves in the environment are now coming in? Or does it mean only the signal of the message my captors want me to hear or experience with physical pain or discomfort? Is only that one getting through? Or am I now susceptible to all microwaves because my defense is done? I don't know. But this is a military-grade weapon that is in the hands of people who are not authorized to have military-grade weapons. They're not part of the military. In fact, some are hourly employees of a private company that isn't even connected to the government, except for a contract they've got with them. That does not mean that they're the government. It would be like pledging allegiance to Halliburton. They have lots of government contracts, but they're not the government. So this program has a lot of problems to it. And the divulging of personal information is huge. I can understand the NSA wanting to keep it. And you know what? I agree with that. I think they should. They're used to handling private information and know how to handle that. Somebody accessing the program in the privacy of their own home at a remote location where there's no supervision or oversight. And it looks like people logging in to do work, something that's work related. Well, they just really love their job. They're working overtime. No, they've become addicted to a target because this gives somebody an immense amount of power and control over another human being. And to do things to them from a remote location. So, is this what we should be doing? I see problems with it. Most people don't speak up about it. They're either afraid or they get tortured if they try to get free. Isn't that sick? So this program is drastically life-changing for most people, most everybody. And nobody believes them. Everybody thinks they're mentally ill. It is the grossest, most debilitating, most embarrassing, most isolating thing ever known to man. But our government sees it as a solution to a bunch of problems. Because if you have control of this, you have control of everything. You can make somebody have an emotion by changing their brain wave activity, stimulating areas of it. You can make people sick, give them a heart attack or stroke with the correct frequency. It's the perfect assassin weapon. It leaves no trace, and you're doing it remotely and in the privacy of your own home. It is a threat to the nation's security that it's existing and used. That's true. So when you think about all of the threats that our nation faces on a daily basis, nobody knows about remote neural monitoring, or they don't believe it. The only people who believe it, except for a small minority of very, very smart people, the majority of everybody are the victims who found out about it searching for answers about their experience and did research and learned things. Because you wouldn't do research into this unless it was happening to you. You'd research other things, which is also what I did once I found out the truth about my experience. I went on a quest for other truths too. Because I've wondered, well, if this is the truth and I didn't know it, what else is there that I don't know about now that I could find out about? So I approached all of my thinking that I previously knew, and I wondered about the possibility of other things being real instead of conspiracies. And the word conspiracy bugs me. I like to call them realists because there's a real element that is true inside every single conspiracy theory. The reason a conspiracy exists is because of a truth that doesn't match the majority narrative. There's something about it that doesn't fit. That's fact. That's what makes a conspiracy theory a conspiracy theory. But the people of the majority opinion poke fun at the conspiracy theory and say that people are crazy that believe it and that, they're not right. Well, how do you know? And you know what I found out? Many people can't back up their beliefs. They don't know why. They believe what they do, but they just believe it. I'm in the same situation with my neighbors. They believe things, but they have nothing to back it up. And I can't get them to believe differently. I'm shocked at the challenges I'm having getting truth out and understood. It's an experience like no other I've ever had. It's a mindfuck, really, to give empirical data that's accurate and correct and not be believed by people, even my own mom. So I asked her one day, Mom, let's say I pretend I'm a cop and I tell somebody else that Patty is a serial murderer. Would that be a crime? Because I wanted to compare what the service secret imposter did to Patty. And my mom told me, well, it depends. And she gave the reasoning, well, freedom of speech, people are allowed to say whatever they want. No. When you say things that are not correct, which is fraud, about somebody else's integrity or occupation or habits, when you give incorrect information and it is damaging to that person's character or their standing in society, that is a crime. Impersonating somebody of the law is a crime. Because people of the law are believed of what they say. Because they come from a place of authority where if anybody knows the truth, they would know the truth. Well, in my situation, they know nothing of the truth and trust in a set of criteria that is incorrect and purposefully put there to be believed. That is not true. I'm being set up. At first by the group. But see, now neighbors have a motive and a reason to try and get me to move based off of lies, but they think it's from the government. Because the police believe it, that means that when the federal government contacted the police and said, hey, we've got these reports, what do you have? Well, they delete my reports, so they say to the federal government, we don't have anything. There's nothing reported. So the federal government believes that I'm mentally ill. And the police don't have reports of crime because they dismiss it because of the diagnosis that I was given that is incorrect, that talks about delusion. And when the doctors go and look, they see no reports of crime. So it looks like it's made up. It is the honest to God strangest story and existence of a life that I could ever imagine for myself. I'd really, really, really like to get back to living life because I've done nothing wrong. And I'm a good guy. And I have lots of friends. All of them think that I'm either crazy or that I'm using drugs. and that I can't move on from life, and that it's my fault that I'm stuck. No, I know that if I try to get a job, the group is going to block me from getting gainful employment. I've been a chosen person to suffer for nothing I've done. There's something wrong with that, America. And do you know what keeps it going on? People not believing it. It's all the majority. That, oh, well, that can't be happening. Or, that sounds like a mental illness. You're hearing voices in your head? Well, you're mentally ill. You need to go get some help. That's what happens. There's nothing wrong with me. But people don't believe it. They think I'm in denial. Wow. I'm here telling you about my experience of being tortured, and you're telling me I'm mentally ill. Everybody in the targeted individual community. That's 2 million people. Are ignored by all of society. Completely ignored. Marginalized as if they do not exist. Oh, he's crazy. He said he hears voices. And everybody goes, the maturity of the majority is dismal. And the comprehension skills and ability to actively listen is worse than that. Because people are not hearing other people tell their life story. They're not absorbing the information, so they're not paying attention. And when somebody says they're suffering, and you ignore it, it makes the suffering continue. So the reason we have targets that are suffering is because of ignoring by everybody else. Don't feel bad that you've ignored in the past, because people are still alive that are being attacked. But it's important, once you get the aha moment, to share it. Once it clicks for you in your head, and once you can believe somebody else's suffering as being real and not imagined, it then gives you reason to share that important information with other people. Because nobody should suffer this way. I've toured 30 capitals trying to get help and telling of the experience of V2K and how it is illegal and should not be allowed. I have 18 more to go, and I'm stuck in Ohio. Trying to get my neighbors to cooperate. And I'm running out of money. And I don't want to get a job. I want to fight for my freedom. And I want to stand up for other people's freedom that don't know that it's being taken away. But nobody will stand with me. Nobody will join me. They're afraid that the government's going to get them into trouble or that they'll be punished. So everybody just stares and ignores. It's the saddest story ever told about a society with a problem. The people that are using the program become addicted to the people that they've targeted and to the program, using it like a drug. Because it gives you that high, that control that you don't have on your own, and that dominance because you know everything. That is an addiction that grows. So the government is getting people sick using it with a disease where people are not paying attention to their own lives. They're paying attention to somebody else's. And it becomes such an obsessive behavior that even without the program in front of them, they're thinking about their captor, this stranger that they didn't know before they started targeting them, right? Like my captors, before I became a target, did they ever worry about what I was doing or where I was? Or did I brush my teeth today? Or did I eat? You see, the captors, in a way, care for me and want to make sure that I'm feeding myself. But you see, that is a thought. That is a sign that you're worried about somebody else that you shouldn't necessarily be concerned with because you've never met, right? So these are problems that arise in a user's life, and they're unable to spend the appropriate amount of time on their own behavior and actions, on their own betterment as a person, because we all have faults. So we work on them. But instead of these people working on their own faults, they point to their target and find fault in them, which is passing judgment, which is reserved for God. Right? And they're actually being a God by talking to them in their head, replacing the position and seat of God. And you can see and hear and know what they think. That sounds like God. Humans were never given these capabilities, but this military weapon does. And there's a reason it's addictive. It gives you what you want. It gives you everything you want. You want to know something about somebody? R&M program's the answer. there are some things that we should not know. Like what time I went to the bathroom today and whether or not I took a poop. Those are things that are private and should remain private. So we need to think, because everything today is over privacy. The Roe versus Wade decision is over an issue of privacy. It's over a woman having the ability to do what they want to their own body. And people are arguing over a morality issue. But that's not what's at the center of the debate. It's over an issue of privacy. And we see this theme recurring again and again. And this belief, like with the COVID vaccine, ownership of a person by the pharmaceutical company that gives the vaccine. Now that we've got a product in you, you are now ours. This idea of ownership and privacy not existing. And there's a societal belief that, well, that's just the way it is today. There are cameras everywhere and blah, blah, blah. How can you throw away privacy like that? As if it's expected for us not to have our privacy. People are giving up the guarantees that we have with a thought that we just don't have it. That's wrong. And there needs to be a shift in thinking in preserving things before they disappear. Because being a teacher for 22 years, when that contract gets rewritten and agreed upon, once you lose something in a contract, don't ever expect it to come back. The executive branch would like us to be rightless and for it to be able to do whatever it wants. Well, guess what? They're guaranteed. You can't take them away. Off limits. Next topic. It just requires government honoring those laws. That's the problem. It has to do with a branch of government gone out of control, trying to control things, and needs to rein itself in and bring integrity back to the establishment to preserve its power and domination. If it cannot rein in itself and respect certain boundaries, then we aren't who we say we are as a country. We're in fact something else. It's important to stand up for something that's invisible, that's a guarantee. Because if nobody stands up for it, it is gone, period. I'm not trying to be a rebel rouser. I'm trying to be a defender of what is already there. That's a big difference. I'm not some radical thinker. I'm a traditionalist that believes in the Constitution that founded our nation. I'm in support of our government structure and want to see it survive. But how can it survive when it's not following the rules? It's like playing a board game with somebody where they don't play by the rules that are in the rule book. How much fun is that? In fact, what's the point of playing with somebody that's going to not follow the rules? It's not a game. So the people are doing their part. They're paying taxes to fund government, yet government slaps them all in the face and says, well, we're going to play by these rules. They change the board and say, go ahead and play the game we played before, but we're on a new board now. That sounds like trouble coming. And we're certainly not a good steward of freedom if we are not honoring freedom. It's just something to think about. Because I would love to see my government survive. But I'm really concerned that we're walking down a path of self-destruction from within. It boggles my mind. I don't know what to do. But I know that I need to continue my fight to get my rights back. My freedom of health is first on the list. A diagnosis removed is next. That will get me quite a few rights back, where I no longer am at the mercy of a police department who has decided that they want to do things to me to please a woman that wants to do things to me. Why do all these people want to do things to me? Why don't they do things to themselves? Like, the police could respond to crime. That would be doing something. At what point does a concerned neighbor turn into harassment? Well, I've got 45 911 transcripts in a 3-year period. You tell me what the magic number is of contacts to an emergency line. to say, maybe there's something going on here. Call me crazy. At what point does observing behavior or documenting things turn into stalking? You know, there's a fine line that is invisible but also unrecognizable by people doing it and by people experiencing it. And once your name is smeared in a community, good luck, because how do you get that fixed? I've been trying to get my story across to the media, but they're not interested. I don't know why. Probably because they've been told that an investigation's going on, that they're not allowed, which is them giving up their freedom of the press. There's a story here. There's a big story. A story about technology. There's a story about neglect from the police department. There's a story about the neighborhood. There are stories galore. A news crew would be busy for at least a solid week with all the stuff that's happening right here. It's incredible. And the media is nowhere to be found. So I share with you what's going on. Because I want to save people's freedom, their lives, and restore their faith in government, and that it works. Because the alternative is the military taking over, or the police, which is really one and the same. It's just another form of a system that is a command and following order organization, where you don't have necessarily people thinking, you have people responding and doing things based off of orders. You're told to do them, so you do them. In my situation, as a targeted person who has known people that want to create harm and believe of being the government, I'm very, very concerned with the top-down rank of following orders. Because what information they have is not correct. And they're not bothering to learn or to accept the truth of the situation. It's got me really worried. So I continue to keep trying. So the problem is, my nosy neighbor wants to put her boobs and ass into my business. and wants to do action about what happens in the privacy of my own home. And can't recognize that me being angry at her, which she says in a 911 recording, but then 10 seconds later says it's a psychiatric episode. Oh, what? You just said I was lying or yelling at you. You had it right the first time. Why are you pulling in something else and calling it that? I will not have people calling something else in my life. I call things like I see them, and so will other people. I walk in truth, and I will not tolerate somebody telling things that are not true. And I will correct, because that's what you do when you encounter lies. I've never known a police entity to deny the truth and instead call them delusional beliefs. Excuse me? Well, that's when it says the diagnosis is. Oh my God. You created it. The police have a lot of work to do. And they might not think much about this case. And they might plan to silence me tonight. Haul me off someplace I don't belong because of lies that they believe. And my whole life is ruined because a group wants to do it. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The group better get their act together. The neighbors better cooperate. And the police better do their job. These aren't miracles that happen on high. These are expectations that are normal. But for whatever reason, all of them are not being met. I hope, and I have faith, that things will work out. I've made it this far. I just have to convince some people to help me and to do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do. They're not going to do it because they want to help me, because they don't like me, which is fine. They're allowed to not like me. But the point is, they should be standing up for what is right. Whether they like me or not does not matter. Are they going to stand up for the right thing to do is the question. They're clouding their judgment with their dislike of me. And they should not let that enter into the equation, because it's about doing the right thing or not. So I urge people who are pervs to consider the possibility of doing the right thing, because the country will benefit and the people will finally get a win under their belt, because the elite win everything. And it is time that something great happened for the people. Only government can make those things happen. Government can make a happier, less crime-ridden, safe place for us all. And it doesn't come with more laws or more control. It comes with being happy. And government could just as easily make that a reality as what they're currently doing, which is making everybody miserable. So, you're in power. Why don't you use it for good? It's not a radical idea. It's a real possibility, if you think about it. We could have an amazing country, more radically different than any other country. Yet, you see, our government is so powerful, there's no way to touch it. And the military needs knocked down a couple notches. They have a secret complex. And they're schizophrenic, really. Sorry, I grew up learning that you defended our freedom, but your program takes it all away, that you're allowing other people to use when you're supposed to have security of it, and secure it so that it's safe and out of people's hands, and you're giving it out like candy. That's negligence. So the military is responsible for its own equipment. Did anybody get in trouble for the misinformation in Afghanistan? The war we didn't need to fight because it was made up, because 9/11 was staged. You know, things do not need to happen in secrecy and in the creation of something to call it something else. That doesn't need to happen. We can actually do things for the good reason. There could be a lot of possibilities, but people need to have a mind shift away from, we got to cover it up, we can't let people know about this. If they find out about this, there's going to be hell to pay, and people will be disappointed. That's so negative. Think about the possibility of people being happy. Think about it. That's your job, because I already think positively and think of having an optimistic outlook of things. So I'm already there. You should join me, because it's a place of happiness and contentment, and where you don't carry baggage with you because you're honest. And you don't have to cover anything up, and you don't have to think of an excuse. There's all these benefits, and they all lead to living a longer life because you're less stressed. So, don't have a heart attack or a stroke, government. We need you around. Maybe you should live a more relaxed life. Share some of those secrets, because they're secrets that keep you sick. You're addicted to control, and it's killing people and our nation. And I'm begging you to please ease up. We're not bad. You treat us like we're bad. We're not. We just want our rights. And they're guaranteed. Will you please give them back? Have a good night.